I just took a trip to New England and I visited Harrison's Comics in Salem, Massachusetts. Let's see what I got. Thanks for joining me. My name is Daryl and I am the host of Read Your Comics. And I've been out for a little bit, but I'm back. I'm going to try to get back on my regular cadence of making videos. I thought I would just share this one little fun haul video. It's a small haul from Harrison's Comics in Salem, Massachusetts. If you've never been to this store, man, it blew me away. It really did. So I took a trip. I started in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I visited Philadelphia, New York, um, Plymouth, and Salem. Topped the trip off in Acadia Park in Maine. It was an awesome trip. I tried to stop at some comic shops, but we were traveling light, and so I didn't really buy a whole bunch. But when I got to Harrison's Comics in Salem, Massachusetts, I couldn't resist. At that point, I had to get some stuff. So this store was massive with like everything you can think of pop culture wise. And I liked the way they had it set up in sections. There was like a kids section that had not just kids comics, but like kids graphic novels, toys that were aimed more at kids, and then even like boxes of comics that were aimed at kids. It had a horror section that was filled with like horror action figures, horror memorabilia, and then it had the boxes of horror comics right there. You go to the back of the store and you got into your like Marvel and DC, just boxes and boxes of back issues. They had multiple shelves of new stuff. If you're into new stuff, they probably had everything that comes out right now. I mean, I was kind of blown away. Overwhelmed is really what I'm going to say. I was overwhelmed. There was a basement I didn't even go in, but I think it was mostly like gaming, D&D, RPG kind of stuff, and that's just not something I'm into, so I didn't make my way down there. I could have spent 10 hours in this store. Digging through comics and stuff, but I'm traveling with my family. My wife and kids only have so much patience for being in a store. Now, my kids will keep looking at stuff like that. My wife has just a little bit of patience for a comic shop. So I didn't do a whole lot of like back issue diving because there was just so much to look through, and I can get back issues almost anywhere. I'm sure there are some issues I'm looking for that I could have found, and it seemed like most prices that I ran across in there were pretty fair. But I saw a big magazine section. Now, not a lot of comic shops carry a bunch of like old magazines. So that was something that when I go to shows and things of that nature, when a dealer has like a box full of magazines, I always love going through them and seeing what I can find. So that's really where I spent most of my time kind of digging as I went through. Starting with this Marvel 1989 Year in Review, I've always wanted this book. Even as a kid, I remembered seeing it, but I never had it. So when I saw it and they had like 4 copies of it, I had to grab one. Comics Journal. They didn't have a ton of them. They had probably about 2 dozen copies of Comics Journal. Those are so hard to find in the wild. I don't know what it is. I mean, you can get on eBay and find them, sure, but out in the wild, I never run across Comics Journal. So I was happy to find like a few. The only ones that really struck my fancy were, one with a Kirby cover. I was a little disappointed on the inside of this book because you got this Captain Victory cover, and I was expecting a little bit more of like an article on it. It's really just a one-page story inside, but there's still other cool stuff inside the magazine as well. These were fun. I had to grab them. Um, Secret Wars, sticker books, and a coloring book. And, these are something that I probably wouldn't pick up very often. It was definitely one of those like impulse things. They have these awesome Doctor Doom covers. I probably would have just gotten these two, but they had this third one, so I had to have them. And they're intact too. We can take a quick look at one. So pretty decent shape. I mean, they obviously were on a shelf at some point at like a grocery store or something. Very much based off of the toy line, but they do have the stickers still inside them. A pretty heavy cardstock cover, and these stickers that you like peel out, which are like limbs and heads and stuff of the characters to just stick in these, you know, cut out places. It's kind of ridiculous. Like this is all they thought of us kids in the 80s that we were capable of doing, is sticking a sticker into an outlined place. It's kind of sad. The art is funny to look at, to see Wolverine drawn this way. It's just awkward looking. I don't know who did the art in these, but I thought they were fun. They had like pretty cool covers. So, like I said, impulse, had to grab them. And I mean, how can you beat those Doctor Doom covers? Look at those Doctor Dooms. Those are awesome. Comicology. This is a Two Maros publication I'm not super familiar with, but I do love Mike Allred, and this X-Men #1 homage definitely sucked me in. Another cool comics journal. Didn't really see what was in this issue, but this cover, I had to have it. Popeye hitting the Hulk. Favorite character of mine. Obviously, if you follow my channel, I do a lot of Hulk videos. Had to grab this one. They actually had 2 copies of this, so that was an easy get. And then they had the Rampaging Hulk, and I probably could have bought 30 of these because it's a book that I've kind of wanted to get into collecting. I have the essentials that collects about, I think I have the volume 2 essentials. This particular cover, though, is one I've seen posted on Instagram so many times. I always want it. When I saw it, like, I had to get it. Now, there are 2 things that I probably would not have picked up anywhere else but Salem, Massachusetts. And if you follow my Instagram, you may have already seen this one. This is a Fantastic Four coloring book where they meet the witch. Salem, Massachusetts, the witch city. How am I going to pass this up? I mean, this was $20. Now, I would not usually pay $20 for a coloring book. I just wouldn't. I did look it up on eBay when I got home, and it does go for like upwards to 30, upwards to 40, really. But the average was over 20. So I mean, I guess I got a good deal on it. Either way, I was in Salem. I had to get the book with the witch on it, right? And it's not colored in, so you know it's in good shape for a coloring book, which amazes me that these things exist that weren't colored in at all. The back of it is kind of like a virgin variant of the cover. I could not find who is credited as the artist for the cover nor the interiors. I'm guessing the interiors are probably the same artist, but then they were able to color the front cover. So it does have a story. It's not comic panels, but it does have a story inside. It's that like very almost brittle newsprint that was pretty common in coloring books of this era. I mean, I remember coloring on books like this. This is from 1977, actually, which is the year I made my own debut in this world. So that was another reason to grab this. 1977, I'm in the Witch City. It's Fantastic Four meets the Witch. Let's see it on the radar. And you can see this art is like very rudimentary. Very rudimentary. But there are some like fun pages in here that I could see like a kid and really enjoying coloring. Look at her riding that bomb. And then there's some, it's just goofy, right? Look at the thing right there. The way Mr. Fantastic wraps up the bomb so that it doesn't explode. But you got cool splash pages essentially like this of Johnny flamed on. And it is telling a story throughout. Like I remember coloring books as a kid, and maybe they had a story and I just wasn't reading it. But even ones I got for my kids when they were smaller was usually just pinups. It was a book full of pinups. I don't remember too many actually having a story. The witch is just going to take out Johnny with her broom. She put out my flame. It's a little too easy there, isn't it, Johnny? Classic thing pose. I mean, this is like ripped from a Kirby panel. I feel like this was a pinup for like a Marvel Mania thing. Obviously redrawn. That's not Kirby art, but definitely pulling from that thing layout. All right. Now all the Fantastic Four, they get turned into animals. Mr. Fantastic a frog, the thing is a turtle. Johnny's, I guess, a giant firefly. Makes sense, right? Can't get Sue, though. Sue kind of saves him here. That's a pretty cool page of her turning invisible. Some cool pages with the witch here. I like this hands in the foreground. And then as it goes along, it turns out the witch is actually, I don't know if she's I guess she's an alien, but there's like an alien that shows up here later on where she's like, I used to be beautiful. And the thing is thinking of her as like a female thing version. Uh, so this alien creature, which is very goofy looking, it looks like this was trying to be like a Kirby inspired alien creature. It kind of reminds me of, I think it was the Infant Terrible from one of the teens, I think, or the early 20s of FF. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I mean, this would be fun to color in as a kid. These like wavy lines and stuff. Just some goofiness. And then it turns out that the witch, it's not that she was a beautiful human. It turns out she was actually like one of these bird creatures. And there she is being beautiful. And that's her happy ending. The witch actually gets a happy ending. So, like I said, very much an impulse buy to get in Salem, Massachusetts. I kind of look at it as my Salem souvenir. I mean, it's Fantastic Four, something that I love, mixed with, visiting uh, the Witch City. Now, the last thing that I picked up, I actually saw this book in another shop in Salem and thought about getting it there, but I knew we were going to go to this comic shop. So I was happy that they actually had it, and they had it right by the register where you could buy it. It's this graphic novel that came out this year, I guess, by Ben Wiki called More Weight. It had an Alan Moore quote on the cover, which caught my attention. I mean, the book cover in itself caught my attention. I mean, it's a thick graphic novel. This isn't just a little like trade paperback thin thing. It's published by Top Shelf, and I knew nothing about it other than it's a Salem story, as it says right here. So again, something that being in the city, kind of an impulse to get, but I have started reading it, and it's pretty good so far. So it's about this person named Giles Corey, who was one of the few men who were actually accused in the Salem witch trial. I did not know anything about him. In fact, I once I started reading it and he starts getting into his story, I looked him up to see if he was a real person, and he is. So I'm looking forward as I finish this out. I'm only like not even a quarter of the way into it. But as I started to like flip through it at the beginning, I was on the plane home actually. I was looking at all of these drawings on the way, and having visited Salem, this is just straight out of it. This is the witch house that's like right there in the downtown area. There's the town hall that, if you've seen Hocus Pocus, it's in there, and it's kind of in this like mall shopping area too, which is pretty close to Harrison's Comics. And all of this just looked very familiar because I was just there. It was pretty awesome actually as I flipped through these opening pages and saw how detailed this was. So, what's his name? Ben Wiki, he's an illustrator that I guess has worked with Alan Moore a little bit, but more on his prose novels. And it credited him some other stuff. I'm just not familiar with his work, but he's a phenomenal cartoonist in this book. There's the Samantha from Bewitched statue, which we saw in Salem. And then you get into like these past. So the story takes place kind of mostly in the past around the Salem witch trial, but it sets some stuff up about the present day. And then it even jumps ahead a little bit into like the late or the early 1800s, I think, or late 1800s. I can't remember. Anyway, but as you know, you can see the cartooning right here. This is Giles Corey, and he looks like something out of like an old Disney cartoon. He reminds me of the owl from Winnie the Pooh. I think that's what it just hit me that that's what his face. But he's very expressive. You can see the cartooning, the animated style of Ben Wiki here. I mean, he does a great job with this guy's face all throughout. And it keeps going through, and there's spots of coloring throughout. The coloring works for certain story points, story emphasis as it goes along. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. It's dense. I mean, you can see the lettering. Um, some pages are very thick, and some pages not as much. So here's some more colored pages, and it goes back and forth. And I was just really impressed. So I am glad that I purchased this, even though it was kind of an impulse. I don't know that this is something I would have just picked up, even hearing about it necessarily. Um, so sometimes impulse buys can bring you to try different things that maybe you wouldn't have in a different circumstance. So that's it. That's my Salem, Massachusetts haul. I'll be back soon exploring some more videos. When I finish this, maybe I'll do a full-on video just covering this book if that's something you guys would like to see. Until then,
Read your comments.